friends, it's Katie back with another episode of my vlog, and today I thought I would answer another viewer question. I got a great question from actually multiple people last year wanting to know the history of Goblinko and what all we've done as a company, how long we've existed, what's the deal with this crazy thing. So I told you guys in a previous vlog how Sean and I met. We originally met trading zines in high school through the mail, and then we re-met when we were in college, and that's when we actually started dating and got together. So 1999, the very beginning of the year, is when we first started dating. Sean moved into my house and my bank account. I moved into his P.O. box. He asked me to marry him. It all went very fast. And then we started co-publishing things together. But to back up a little bit, let's go back to the high school part. Sean has been doing zines since he was 12, I think. He will correct me in the comments if I'm wrong on that, but I believe I have that right. And when he was in high school working on zines, his zine was called Goblins Armpit. So I have a couple issues of Goblins Armpit here to show you guys kind of the vibe of what Sean's high school zine looked like. And when he was doing Goblins Armpit, he went by the name Sean Goblin. So when we first got together and decided to publish things together, I had also done zines in high school. I did not bring one of my zines to this talk. I don't know why. Sorry. When we first got together and decided to start publishing, we needed a name for the press. And so since he already was Sean Goblin from Goblins Armpit, we decided to name the company Goblinko, like we're a goblin company. A lot of people say Goblinko. That's okay. I'm not offended about it, but the correct pronunciation is Goblinko. We are a goblin company. And the K, of course, is from my name. So Sean Goblin, Katie, Goblinko. There you go. So that's where the goblin part of the name comes from. When we first got together, it was springtime and the stores were full of Easter stuff. And so when we very first started publishing, the first two things we published were Peepu zine and Peepu stories. These both came out in April of 1999, and Peepu zine is a proper zine. I was working at a copy shop at the time, so that's why we had stuff like, vellum translucent overcover. That's pretty cool. But Peepu zine is a zine proper. An article about peeps. We did how to be a proper drunk, article about gelatin, stuff about ramen. Sean is obsessed with ramen, in case you don't know that. There's a bunch of other stuff in here. And of course, reviews. Reviews have been a part of almost every zine we've done. Peepu zine turned out to be a one-off. We thought we were going to do a whole bunch of these, but we didn't. We changed course with the zines we were doing. But the other component here is Peepu stories. Now, when we first started doing Peepu stories, and again, only the first issue was called Peepu stories, we did this insane non-Photoshop cutout style where we drew these characters on separate pieces of paper and cut them out, and then drew the backgrounds and the word bubbles separately, and then we would lay it all out actually on the glass of a photocopier, like some kind of pre-scanner scanning, to make the artwork for the panels and the pages for Peepu, or rather Peepu stories. Now, Peepu stories morphed pretty quickly to just be called Peepu. And we proceeded to come up with a very aggressive publishing schedule. We decided we were going to do an issue of Peepu every month, which is insane. And we did it for 14 months. So there is the original run of all 14 episodes of Peepu. They got a little crazier as they went. This was one of my favorite projects we've ever done, one of the earliest projects we've ever done. And it felt like it just kept going and going and going, but it did stop here. And the reason why is doing a monthly comic is crazy, especially when you're also doing other projects at the same time. So in addition to doing Peepu, we were also doing our zine Go. Now, Go also came out in 1999. We didn't do monthly with Go, but this is a proper zine where we were writing about different topics, mostly about the future and our visions for the future and how we wanted things to be. Go had a pretty awesome run of 5 issues. That was issue 1. Issue 2, we're communicating, right? Issue 3, oh, the bold train into the future city. Issue 4, oh, there's me on the cover. And issue 5, the last issue. By the time we got to this one, we got kind of one of the best reviews I've ever gotten in my life, which was from Rocktober. They said about Go, it's a zine written by puppets and cartoon characters for puppets and cartoon characters. So that was a really fun one. We did 5 issues of Go over the course of, gosh, I should have better notes here. Yeah, this one's 2000. So between 1999 and 2000, we put out 5 issues of Go. We did have some contributors on that one. It wasn't just me and Sean doing all of the content, but we did most of it. Let's be real. At that point, after doing just crunching along on Go and Peepu, like really intensely for what, a year and a half, 2 years, things kind of slowed down a little. We were like, okay, this is like taking up way too much of our time, even though we love doing it. So let's ease off on the publication schedule. Let's stop with Go after 5 issues. Let's keep going with Peepu, but let's not do it every month. So we came up with this concept where we did a second series of Peepu. We went to this bigger size and we were doing them not as often. This one's all wildly discolored on the cover. I also found copies of both of these at a used bookstore here in Portland. Now these came out in 2000. Yes. So these came out in 2000. I found copies of both of these at a used bookstore in Portland like 3 years ago, which blew my mind. I was like, whoa, somebody sold their Peepu collection. What the hell? So these were the last 2 like proper issues from the first run of Peepu. You can see by the art style, we were still doing this weird kind of pseudo Photoshop thing where we drew things kind of flatly and then assembled them. I think at that point we were actually assembling them in the computer, but Sean was not yet hand drawing the whole thing. He was still working on his drawing style, and he didn't want to draw the whole comic. So that's how we did it. After this one, Series 2, Issue 2, we took a much bigger break from Peepu because that's when Sean decided he wanted to actually redraw Peepu and we wanted to reissue Peepu in a new format with the new drawing style. So he went through and he redrew the first 5, I think, issues of Peepu into this adorable little book called Friends Forever. And yes, that is my tattoo on the side there. It's looking a little worse for wear here 17 years later, but we redid the stories only slightly. They basically are the same. You can see completely different drawing style. We renamed some of the characters. We had called ourselves Sean and Katie in the original versions, and we became Jacques and Lily in the redone version. And this little book was a ton of fun. We had it professionally printed for us. Obviously, we did not just bind that by ourselves. We actually did it with a tax refund. I got a pretty big tax refund one year, and we were like, let's just do it. Let's get, oh God, I think it was like 400 copies made of this one, and let's get it out there. So that was the existence of Peepu for a while. It took us a while to come to this one, though. There's a 3-year break between the end of Series 2 and when we finally put Friends Forever out. Sean was redrawing it, and then he decided to redraw it halfway through the redraw. He started over again, and there were other life events and things happening as well. So it took us a little while to come out with this one. And then after we did this, we did one new issue of Peepu in this wildly different format, which I love, but it's the only issue that ever was this way. It's got this cool wraparound cover, which I love, and tells the story of Under Peepu's Bed. This one's a great one. So lots of issues of Peepu. Peepu kind of goes on hold after this one, and we started focusing on some other things. My whole table in front of me is covered with zines right now, in case you can't guess that. In 2002, we did a one-off zine called Orange. This was a bunch of different things, but there's a huge blind taste test of every kind of orange soda there is, with like a chart and people's comments and everything. I think we reviewed 33 types of orange soda. Spoiler alert, the winners were the Albertsons and Safeway generic store brand. Those were everyone's favorites. And everyone was so sure when they were drinking those ones. They were like, this one is Sunkissed. This one is Fanta. And I was the one who actually knew what was what, because not everyone could have the blind taste test. And I was in the kitchen like giggling, ha ha ha, you don't even know. We also reviewed every Ice Cube movie up to the point that this came out, which I think ends with Ghosts of Mars, but I'm not positive. And I'm not going to sit here reading the zine. If you have a copy of Orange, that's kind of a special one. That was a real limited one. True heads and collectors have Orange. After that, Sean went back into doing his own thing and issued a couple of zines that I didn't really have anything to do with. One called Binocular Rebellious and the other one called The Goblin. And these ones were more returning to his kind of traditional form. Lots of writing, lots of illustrations. Very, very cool. Both of these are awesome zines. If you're a person who has either or both of these in your collection, that's very cool. I really, really like both of these. I don't know if Sean is ever going to reissue anything old, but these would be some of the ones that I would vote for if we were going to reissue older stuff. So these are like 2003, 2004. Right after those came out, we did a couple more issues of Peepu, a couple of one-offs. Really enjoyed doing these two, but we just couldn't really get it together to get started with Peepu again. It's kind of been this dream that we've had all along of, well, maybe we put Peepu on the back burner for a while and then we can come back to her and, see about kind of making her go again. And we keep trying, and there'll be like 2 issues like this or 2 issues like this in 2009. And then we kind of lose steam on it and don't just keep rolling forward with Peepu. We have talked about doing a Peepu board game, which I think would be really, really fun. But that's just a pie in the sky dream at this point. But back to our story. Where were we? We ended in 2004. And then there's kind of a little gap. We moved to Oregon in 2004, and then we kind of immediately started having babies, and we had 3 kids, one after another. So 2004 to 2010, there's not nearly as much content that we were putting out. We were still working on lots of stuff. Sean was making these funny little one-off zines for some classes that he was teaching back in Eugene. He did this cool cereal zine, and he did this little graffiti and other associated kind of ideas zine. And we did, well, here's Peepu again turning up. Real simple little storybook kind of introduction to Peepu, where we thought we were going to be reintroducing her and coming out with more Peepu stuff, but it didn't really go many places. An Aqua Baby mini. Aqua Babies are characters in Peepu. And a couple of other things like that. Now, the other thing that Sean was doing during this kind of gap time in publishing was he started working on a series of trading cards. He did the Monsters, Weirdos, and Creeps trading cards. He did the Pizza Party trading cards. And he also started the conceptual work on Dungeon Degenerates way back in 2007. But we weren't anywhere near ready to actually do something with that yet. So that kind of just simmered on the back burner. Lots of stuff in sketchbooks, lots of cool drawings, but nowhere to really put them yet at that point in time. So then, let's see, where do we get to? I ended with 2010. Oh, 2011. That was the launch of Pork Magazine. So I've put up a couple issues on the wall behind me. I also have one right here. Pork was pretty much the all-encompassing project that took over our lives for, 8 years. So we've always considered it is a magazine, but it's like a big zine. You see our history is zines. And we came out with Pork. The first issue, I think, is spring of 2011. I'm not positive. Some total collector can correct me if I'm wrong on that one. Sean had actually been working for a local free paper down in Eugene, and he was doing art stuff, but he was also selling ads, and he was kind of working a little too hard for them. And he realized, hey, wait a minute, I could be doing the same thing on my own project instead of doing this for somebody else. And it was like completely flip the script upside down from making a zine, no ads in the zine, cover price $2, trying to convince people to buy it from you, to a free magazine that has ads in it. And the ads, of course, are paying for publication of the magazine. Once we figured out how to do that, all we had to figure out how to do was sell enough ads and find enough places where we could distribute the magazine and get it into people's hands who needed to see this magazine. So again, we spent from 2011 until I believe 2018 doing Pork Magazine. At first, Sean wanted to do it bi-monthly, and I was like, that's a little crazy. So then we agreed on quarterly, and then we eventually stepped down to 3 times a year just because it was so much work to put together one of these issues of Pork. It's so much bigger than any other zine publication that we had ever done. And there were a lot of contributors, a lot of advertisers to organize, just a lot of stuff to organize. Also getting, I think at our peak print run, we were getting 35,000 copies printed by a professional press here in Oregon. We were not DIY printing these magazines behind me. That was way beyond what we could do. And kind of tandem with Pork Magazine, we introduced the concept of Goblinko Mega Mall, which most people say Goblinko Mega Mall because it rolls off the tongue a little bit better, but I already told you guys Goblinko is the correct pronunciation. So we had already been making buttons and selling those previously, but it wasn't until after we started publishing Pork that we really got into making patches, enamel pins, t-shirts, and all of the other things that we sell at the Mega Mall. And it was kind of funny because at first Pork was sort of the driving engine of what we were doing. And then once we started selling t-shirts and patches and all this other stuff, very quickly that became the driving engine of what we were doing. And Pork became almost just an ad, not just, it's always been this other thing, but it acted as this giant ad for the Mega Mall that, you know, rockers all over the country and all over the world would go out to their local venue or record store or tattoo shop or, you know, cafe or whatever, where there's a stack of Pork magazines. They'd find it, they'd get so jazzed up, and then they'd come onto our website and buy a bunch of the gear. So that's pretty much the launch of our economic success as a company. Pork always lost money, even though it was paid for through ads. There's other costs associated. So we managed to break even on a couple issues, but we usually lost money on them. But then again, it was acting like this giant ad for the Mega Mall. And so that was the thing that really allowed us to, you know, we had already quit our day jobs, but we were struggling a lot financially at that point. The Mega Mall taking off was what allowed us to pursue a bunch of other projects and really be able to be just professional art weirdos who run this insane company. So that's cool. Excuse me. Meanwhile, Sean's been working this whole time on the Dungeon Degenerates concept and the Dungeon Degenerates art. So we fast forward in time from the creation of Pork and the Mega Mall to 2016. And that is when we finally, it's like all the pieces finally came together and we ran the Kickstarter for Dungeon Degenerates Hand of Doom. This is far and away the most successful project we've ever done. We are on the 3rd printing right now, and hopefully we'll be doing the 4th printing coming up soon. Our fans absolutely love it and are constantly asking us for more expansion content for the game. We're working on it. We're going to get you guys more content just as soon as we can. But that was just it was a really cool, but also this huge amount of work. So it's like this giant bomb went off in our lives of the work of doing Dungeon Degenerates, but then also the payoff of having an actually successful product. My God, that was amazing. So the Kickstarter was in 2016. The game came out Halloween of 2017. And like I said, it's just sold like gangbusters since then. You guys know the sad part of our story already. 2018 is when Sean had the stroke. That was in the fall. And then things kind of ground to a halt for us creatively, just because suddenly we're in the stroke dimension. Sean can't make art at all. And I'm so traumatized and upset and overwhelmed with everything I have to do. I wasn't making that much art at all. And we really weren't thinking about, okay, what's the next project? What do we publish next? Whatever. We were just focused on, okay, we're in the stroke dimension now. Luckily, we had already established our company to a point where we had some employees who could run things for us and keep the orders going out the door. We had enough sales on the game to kind of keep ourselves going along through that really dark period of time. And then we were able to do the Kickstarter for Acid Vomit. Oh, I have so many visual aids here. And we published this amazing book, which has a huge sampling of Sean's art over the last 25 years of his career. This was a really fun project to do, and actually doing this project was what made us go through the zine archive, which is what kind of prompted all of these little visual aids to be here today. It was all messed up before we did Acid Vomit, and luckily we organized the zine archive while we were putting Acid Vomit together, so it was much easier for me to pull everything out today. And yeah, if you guys have Acid Vomit, you know a lot of this stuff I'm telling you is in Acid Vomit, so I hope it's not too boring that I'm repeating it, but I think we have different audiences. Some crossover, but some different audiences. And that brings us up to now, and the latest project we're working on is Dungeon Breakout, which is currently on a boat headed towards the USA, and hopefully we'll get here within a few weeks and will be on its way out to all of our Kickstarter backers. So yeah, that's kind of it. It's a lot, but I hope that you guys have enjoyed this look at the history of the company, what we've been working on. Maybe it comes as a surprise to some of you that most of our history is in zines. I don't think it comes as too much of a surprise though. But let me know if you have any more questions about Goblinko or questions about anything that I can answer, because I do like these prompts for my vlog. And if you haven't checked out the Mega Mall, please check out goblinkomegamall.com. We have our full catalog of everything that we sell there. And it's all wild. It's all amazing. And if you like me and what I do, obviously you like what Goblinko does too, because that's me. I'm half of Goblinko. All right, you guys, thanks so much for watching. I'll be back in a few more days with another episode of my vlog. Until then, everybody, stay safe and take care out there. See you next time.